Yeah, ours did not.
All right, if you could please stand for a pledge allegiance and a moment of silence. During our moment of silence, please remember Sam Peterson, who we lost. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Call to order the meeting for July 8th. Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda?
No.
All right, I apologize. Moving on to the, board recognition.
Right, I'll ask Coach Waybright to come up. Are you kicking it off, Mr. Waybright?
I'm going to turn it over to Coach Scott to start with the winter and then Coach Godey for our spring.
All right, well, Coach Scott, come on up. Let's get started with recognizing some of our athletes.
That's right.
Yeah, big time.
So sorry it took so long to get us here. We had another strong season for boys and girls swim team. The girls were 16-2 for the season, and the boys were 14-1-1 for their season. Both teams won the invite, they won their conference, and then both teams were runners up for sectional. And then we had 2 divers advance out of our sectional to regionals. And I had Emerson Meredith for the girls, and then Ben Peterson for the boys advance on, and they both did really well compared to the previous years. And then for the boys sectional, we had 2 boys advance on. They couldn't be here tonight. One's on a mission trip and the other's working. Rylan Hirely advanced in the 200 free and the 100 free, and then Kale advanced in the 100 breaststroke. And swim is a little bit different than all the other sports. We are all in one big pot across the state, so we're competing down there against Carmel, Noblesville, Fishers, Carroll up here in Fort Wayne, so all those big schools, we are all thrown together. So for us just to make it down to state is a really, really big deal. So they did really well this season, really proud of them and their accomplishments. Thank you.
Take it with me. Hey, you guys got to go with me.
All right, I've got my notes on here because I don't want to forget anything. I guess. All right. So I'm the boys track coach, and I first want to start out by thanking our administrators, the athletic department, and the coaches, Coach Stoppenhagen, Coach Gerber, Coach Melcher, Coach Stuhler, and Coach Bailey. They are what make our program successful. We had a great season, and we are excited to celebrate that we had, I think, mid-50s in the girls, and then we were at 61 boys with our team numbers this year. So that's a lot of Norwell students that are being a part of something, and we're excited about that. We are recognizing 4 athletes here today. 2 of them are with me. The other 2 couldn't make it. So first, she's not here tonight, but we'll start with Jada Dale. And she had a lot of accomplishments this year. She was the NE8 conference champion in the 200 and the 400 meter dash. She was the sectional champion in the 200 and 400 meter dash. She was second at regionals in the 400 meter dash, sending her to the state meet, where she placed 18th out of 26 competitors. This was her second year in a row making the state meet. She's a junior, so that's super exciting. A couple comments about Jada. She has already put herself in the top 5 fastest ever at Norwell in the 200 and in the 400 in previous seasons, but this year she improved those marks. She did so by 0.54 seconds with a time of 26.34 in the 200 meter dash, putting her at number 3 all time in the 400 meter dash. She bested her time by 0.41 seconds, putting her as number 2 all time, only 0.04 seconds from the school record that's been held since 1984. Jada is a coach's dream. Her work ethic and determination is like no other. She has the true deep down grit. She wants to constantly improve and soaks up every learning opportunity to make necessary changes and get better. She's a phenomenal athlete, but an even better person. And we have her for one more year, so we're looking forward to seeing what she can do during her senior year this upcoming season. So that's a few things about Jada Dale. Up next is Emerson Meredith. Here for Emerson, a couple accomplishments that she achieved. During the indoor season, we get to have a kind of a classed type of scenario where we have 1A through 3A schools that compete and then 4A and 5A schools that compete. She qualified in the pole vault for the Hoosier State Relays is what they call. I've always referred to it as indoor state because you have to qualify and you're competing against those competitors, and she placed 5th in that meet after being on a cruise for 2 weeks and not practicing. So pretty impressive for her to show up and be the 5th best athlete in 1A through 3A pole vault competitors. Then during outdoor season, she was the NE8 pole vault champion, where she also set the meet record. In sectionals, she mastered rain pole vaulting because we had horrific weather, and she was the sectional champion. Then at regionals, she was also the champion there, becoming the second Norwell pole vaulter ever, out of any pole vaulter that's ever come through here to make it to the state finals. And during her time here in Norwell, she broke a 15-year-old school record with a pole vault of 11 feet 1 inches. So exciting stuff for her there. Emerson is a fierce competitor, yet one of the most supportive people you'll ever come in contact with, whether that's a teammate or an opponent. She's always offering congratulations to opponents, encouraging them even during competitions. She volunteers her time to support the track team in her community. She's an excellent role model for younger athletes, and she's considered a superhero by my daughter Matilda. She loves to work hard toward improvement at every practice, no matter what we ask her to do. She'll be attending Taylor University next year to study elementary education, and we look forward to hearing about her success there. She'll also be pole vaulting at Taylor. Emerson Rick. Moving to our 2 boy athletes that made it to this state meet. Wes Kerming couldn't make it tonight. He's in Tennessee. Wes was our NE8 conference shot put runner-up. He was a sectional meet 3rd place finisher, which qualified him for regionals. At regional, he had a throw that we've been expecting of him all year, where he threw 55 feet 8 inches, which is an enormous throw, and he won the regional meet after getting 3rd place at sectionals. So he kind of finally put everything together and was the champion there. We were super excited for him. We've seen impressive throwers come through Norwell, and in the record books, he's number 3 all time with his throw this year of 55 feet 7 inches. Wes has a unique story. During his junior year in advanced sports class, when they were playing basketball, he broke his tibia and fibula right before our indoor season began. So he lost his entire junior season. That's a significant injury. You hear about athletic careers ending with something like that. So Wes was super serious about his recovery. Every time I'd run into him, he would talk about the progress he was making, the places he was getting to, and I knew he was going to have a big season this year. He was kind of relearning the event because when you have a significant injury like that, it was his drive leg. He had to kind of relearn his technique and learning to trust himself, but he showed up big for us. Next year, he'll be going to Ohio Northern University, where he's going to begin pre-med studies, and he's also going to be a thrower for their track team. So very excited to hear about what he does there. It's Wes Kerming. Finally, Jace Harmon. He's here tonight with us. Some accomplishments from Jace this year. He is the NE8 long jump runner-up, where he broke our original, he's not happy with this, he broke our original school record by half an inch in this meet. But on that jump, he strained his quad. So he didn't get to compete in his other, that was one event that he scored in, the other 3 he didn't get to compete in. I would like to point out the 100 and 200 prelims, he was the fastest runner there. So I think he probably would have been in those, yeah, he thinks so too. He did get 5th place in the high jump as well. We had to scratch him from that because his quad injury happened when he was bouncing around from event to event. We used him in a lot of spots. throughout the season this year. So unfortunate that happened, but we were thankful that we had about 2 weeks before the sectional meet. He attacked recovery and he was ready to go for that meet, where in the 200-meter run, he was the runner-up. He was third place in the long jump, and he helped our 4x400-meter team finish third overall. This is the first time I've had a sprinter come to me and say, "Hey, could I be a part of the 4x4 team?" Because we were going to pull him from the high jump because of that quad injury, because it just stressed it a little bit, and we thought it would be best for a move for him to be successful to do so. And they moved on in the 4x4 relay, and he was the trail leg, and he caught somebody right at the end. Two people at the end.
Yeah, good right, coach.
It was exciting to watch. I knew he was going to get one. The second one, I wasn't quite sure. But he did. At regionals, Jace competed in 3 events. That's pretty impressive for somebody to show up at a really difficult sectional and then get out of there with 3 events. He ended up placing third in the long jump, qualifying him for the state finals. And then at the state finals, he had one of the biggest jumps we've seen in a very long time here in Norwell. He jumped 23 feet, 2.5 inches, placing 7th overall, making the podium at the state meet. It was awesome to watch. That set our school record, broke it by a lot. Yeah, right, which was his own record. So I think he was happy that he put that mark, because we knew he could do it. It was just a matter of getting it in, and it was exciting to see. For the other Norwell records that Jace has been a part of during his time here, he's 5th all-time in the 200 with 22.57 seconds. He's 4th in the high jump with a jump of 6.3. Last year, he was a member of our 4x100-meter relay that is 1st in the record books in Norwell history, and he is our record holder in the long jump as well. A couple comments about Jace, and then I'll be done for tonight. Jace didn't become the explosive athlete that we see overnight. He spent a lot of hours in the weight room attacking his training and becoming better each day. His skills are a result of hard work and dedication. He brings energy to a team that a coach always needs. He has a positive attitude. He's ready to compete. It's fair to say that the younger athletes understand what it takes to hit impressive marks by being Jace's teammate this year. Next year, Jace is headed to Thomas More University, where he's going to study to either be a physical therapist or physical trainer. Right? Yep. And he's also going to contribute on the track team. I'm sure they're going to put him in a ton of different events, just like we did. Anything explosive, he's going to be good at it. We're excited to hear what he's doing and the success he has at the college level. So thanks everybody for letting us come here and recognize our team.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks, coaches, Coach Scott, Coach Brody. So not only students is great performances, but you guys are great coaches and do it the right way and run good programs, so we appreciate it.
Irene, efficiency?
Yeah, so I want to talk a little bit more about the process here. We got some teachers with us and our principals, and yeah, you don't have to stay if you don't want to. But really want to talk about the processes. The actual results are embargoed, so we can't release those yet. I will tell you, I think they're going to be the highest scores that Norwell's had, if not ever, we're talking over a decade. I mean, it's impressive, some of the work that's being done. And so that goal of what the state has put at 95%, I think we're going to get there. And if not, right there this year, really close to being there. So I just want to hand it over to, I'll let Mrs. Casso start and kind of introduce some teachers. But it's the process that was happening throughout the year in intervention groups, and then what they put together for the summer school was very impressive, and we just appreciate all the work.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of our crew is here tonight, some couldn't be here, but we had a great, strong team in both 2nd and 3rd grade now. Students take the test both as 2nd graders and as 3rd graders. And 2nd grade kind of lets them experience the test, and some of them pass it. Our goal is to get, hopefully, the next year or two, about 80%. We'll be sneaking up on that this year. And that way we can really focus on those kids that need extra support in reading as 3rd graders to get them across that line. As I told teachers and families, our end goal is always to have readers so that they can do whatever they want with their life. The test is a nice measuring stick to see if we're getting there, but that's not the end goal. And these teachers have embraced that. We have some third grade teachers here. We also have some teachers that participated in summer school. We ran summer school until June 19th. And I will tell you, one of the joys, and I think Adam can speak to this as an administrator, is that you kind of, like, you get to watch teaching as a spectator. Like, you know, I did it and I loved it, but now I get to sit back and like watch the fireworks happen, which is really cool. And to watch these teachers work as hard as they did, and they laughed and they cried and they celebrated with these kids through the year and through the summer. Listening to the kids, you know, stopping me in the hall and telling me like, I didn't miss any today, you know, or showing me papers or talking about what they did. I read the whole passage. That's awesome. They're excited about what's happening. And, you know, these teachers are the reason that's happening. In addition, our families are working hard with these kids because they want them to read as well. And that takes dedication on both sides. We can't do it alone at school. And obviously families, it's hard for them to do it alone at home, so it really takes that partnership. And the staff in both buildings is very committed to that, working together to help those kids do whatever it takes. Both buildings have an intervention time to really hone in on those kids that need extra and hit them exactly where they are. And then we took that information, that data, and poured that into how do we divide these kids up and help them get where they need to get in this last 4 weeks before they took that test again. And so we had a lot of success both through the year and through the summer. We're excited to see what those scores are going to look like when they come back from the state. But I will have our teachers stand up. I know you don't have to get up and come up here, but they deserve a big round of applause because they have worked hard for these kids.
And I want to say too, I know Tani, you drove for summer school.
Oh, yes.
Lori did as well.
Yes.
Who was our third that we had? Oh, Destiny.
Destiny, rock
She's not
stars.
here,
They
yeah.
like, oh man.
So we
Those
appreciate
kids,
that.
They were long routes and they were committed, boy. They worked hard with those kids.
Yeah.
They got them.
Yeah,
They got
so
them there and they came in with smiles on their faces. So absolutely.
Yeah, we really appreciate it, and I know not everybody's here, but just,
Yes.
you know, it's a lot of work, but it's a simple process of identifying where kids are at and what to do, but it's really hard work to follow that process. And so just really appreciate it. You're heading in the right direction, and we just keep seeing those results soar.
I have a question. Do second and third graders attend summer school or just the third grades? So both?
What we did, the state requires anyone that doesn't pass as a third grader to go to summer school. In addition, second graders are classified a little different. They either pass, they're on track, or they're at risk. The state requires us to provide that for any at-risk kids. We also included any of our on-track kids to give them just a little more boost to help solidify those skills, and then they could take it again at that time.
So how many did we have total between the two grades and two schools?
75, is that right?
Okay.
About 75 total between second and third that were there pretty consistently.
Okay.
So we had a lot of improvement. How did you guys do that? How did you make such an improvement? Like,
Teachers, you want to talk about that?
I'm curious.
Anybody want to jump in and think about what was the difference? What did you do? Nicole, talk about it.
I mean, I just really tried to form a relationship with the kids in the first place. If you have that relationship, they're more able to trust you and everything. And then we followed the amazing plan that the instructional assistants put together for us, the coaches, and they did a wonderful job of like laying everything out for us, making sure that the kids got everything that they needed on a daily basis. And then we were able to then perform that every day with the kids and get them to where they needed to be.
Well, the parent.
Just to
Yeah.
jump onto what you said, I think one of the things that created more of a community feeling with iRead this year was administrators and coaches put together a family meeting in September, October. It was pretty early. It
before we had fall conferences and laid everything out that the state had at that time, knowing changes would still be coming. But we had several parents that came. A lot of the teachers were there that night too. So parents knew then that like your kid will, be in these groups and these are what we are going to do. We'd already had a plan ready to go. We'd already started interventions. And then when that happened, it created a bridge the entire year. Like communication with the parents, like even those parents that are hard to communicate with, made it so much easier because they knew ahead of time, like everything was front loaded for them, along with their kids in the classroom too, so it helped a lot.
So a lot of the parents' involvement is what really your key is.
It does help a lot.
And is that something you haven't seen in the past, or is it something you just see a lot of participation?
It's spotty, wouldn't you say? I mean, there are some parents that are all in, and there are others that school's not the most comfortable place for them. And so they're sometimes a little hesitant to be as involved, or they're not confident. And so just helping them and giving them resources and ideas that they don't have to teach the kids how to read to them. It's as simple as that sometimes. Just hearing stories and vocabulary helps build that onto what the teachers are doing in the classroom.
And I think knowing at the beginning of the year that the state requirements had changed, that made the parents more like, oh, I need to really invest. Because the requirements now are if you don't pass in 3rd grade, then you don't go to 4th grade. And so that really made them a reality check, I would say, that this is serious, and that we've been trying to get this to be serious, and now it is serious. So, yeah.
Did you say too, Teresa, just from looking at your spreadsheet, right, that they obviously don't see it with the spreadsheets of the kids, where they're at in terms of how close they are to passing, and then being strategic in those groups, breaking those down, and then targeting, okay, the kids that are in this group and they're just that far off, now we're gonna spiral these skills with them and hit those with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And through the year, the teachers manage that. Like Nicole said, Lynette and Janelle put multi-layers of instruction together for summer school based on what kids needed. And we did a quick data check on those kids, compiled those groups as to what they needed most, and spiraled that through to really build on what they could do and get them to what they needed to do.
Because that's what we say about it being a simple process. That's pretty simple, you identify what they need, but it's so hard. And it takes a lot of work. I mean, there's a lot of work involved in that. But it's simple in terms of we just need to look at what do kids need, and then you give it to them. But there's just a lot of work to break that down, and it takes a lot of time. Yeah,
I
go
just
ahead.
wanted to add on to, like, for a lot of these students, like, they desperately needed the small group setting, and in a classroom
Yes.
during the school year, that's not always
Good point.
possible. They need less than 20 kids in a classroom,
Yeah.
but this summer, I think the biggest group had maybe 11 kids. So that makes a huge difference right there in and of itself, the amount of individual or at least closer attention that you can give to those kids.
Yeah.
So that was really helpful.
For sure. Well, thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate you.
Okay, moving on to the approval of consent agenda items.
All right, so you have previous minutes there, you have your claims. I do have the personnel report. I'll open up, and just on a note here to the public, just so we have on the agenda, our documents are linked so you can go to them. But in talking with Byron, so Digital Communities used to be Board Docs, now Digital Communities. That's the venue we use for our board information. We're having some issues with public documents, so if you click on that link, you may not be able to open it. Thought that was resolved, but Byron's going to follow back up with them, because I heard from some people they were not able to open those documents. So the board's able to, but the public had not been able to. But to go through the personnel items, FMLA approvals that we need, Courtney Springer and Ashley Dobb. Resignations, Angela Pyatt, Kelly Steffen, Shane Neuenswander as assistant football coach, Danielle Schmidt, boys head golf coach, and Cameron Etzler, boys, 8th grade boys basketball coach. Recommendations, Amy Fullenkamp, science teacher at the middle school, and I won't comment on every single one of these, so don't take it personally if I don't on yours, but I have to, so we do a final interview, Anna and I do, after the principals make a recommendation before we bring it to the board. And on Amy's, I just want to say, when she talked about choosing Norwell, she just said, she talked about ready for what's next, talked about the vision that she sees from the outside looking in and things that she was watching, and just saying that's what drew her to Norwell and that's why she wanted to come here. Really happy to have Amy. She's had a lot of experience, not only in the classroom, but also in working for Solution Tree and professional development. So anyway, I just wanted to share that because I thought that was, we've heard that a couple of times from teachers coming into Norwell, things that they're seeing from the outside, and I just appreciate them saying that. All right, Justin Grant, physical education teacher, Holiday Stevenson, mild intervention teacher, Paul Neuenschwander, elementary guidance counselor, Matthew Miles, second shift custodian, Bradley Snow, second shift custodian, Connie McBride, preschool teaching assistant, Brianna Webb, special education teaching assistant, Jasmine Hooker, part-time preschool teaching assistant, Catherine Berkey, food service, Autumn Croft, food service, Brandy Cooner, food service, Teresa Town, substitute bus driver. And I want to pause on that one just to say we have, and I just saw another email, so it may go up to 7, but 6 new bus drivers going through the process for this next school year. And from the email I just saw in the application, possibly we'll have a 7th, so that's encouraging as we're starting a new school year. Emily Tucker, volunteer assistant cheer coach, and Paul Jensen, volunteer assistant wrestling coach. Then position change, Lillian Lovell, PT to FT preschool teacher at Lancaster. And then Jenny Ness, if you remember last year we had transportation coordinator, and just as we're looking, there's a lot more administrative kind of role that was kind of evolving into. And so in talking with Jenny, we're going back to that transportation secretary role. I think a conversation for the board will be, do you want us to start pursuing a transportation director, or how you want that to look? But appreciate the work that Jenny is doing, and we're going to get to some transportation stuff and talk about that a little bit later in the meeting. But that's a personnel item. Get back to
Those
the
are
rest. That's it.
the consent agenda items.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second it. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, right hand. Moving on to discussion item draft policy number 5335, use of artificial intelligence programs.
Yes, we've been a little bit slow in putting a policy together, honestly, for this. Want to kind of talk more with Byron and kind of watch some things play out, and whether we wanted to just use the ISBA one or not. And so this is one recommended by ISBA, and it's pretty broad, but that's how board policy is supposed to be. So just it's initial reading if you have any questions, and Byron can come to the podium if you have more.
Any discussion from the board?
As long as there's nothing that, like, I guess, are there safety protocols where if someone puts, because I know we're doing all that health, like health records are now electronic or going to electronic. Nobody can put that into an AI thing, correct?
So whenever we talk about AI, the idea and the policy is to allow AI, but in a controlled environment.
Right.
So we applied for the digital learning grant this spring. We got that. There is a software that we're going to be purchasing that allows us to control and manipulate and work with kids and teachers in a controlled environment. We're not going to hand them ChatGPT and say, go do whatever, where the data is who knows what, and it's going, we don't know where. So it'll be in a controlled environment. Teachers will be able to watch what students are doing, be able to assign stuff along with the data that's being in. So it's in a controlled environment, and then the idea with that is helping teachers understand how to do it, and helping students know how to use it productively, and not just to shorten the time of an assignment.
So while we have a board policy related to it, there may be more internal building-specific policies that
So we
could
also
be-
added some stuff to the handbook, which is
Okay,
later.
perfect.
But yes, there's some verbiage in the handbook too that we added along with this policy.
Any other questions?
No, I'll make a motion to approve.
This is a discussion item.
Never mind.
I like what you think.
right, what's the?
Yep, we got a lot more other stuff, so let's.
Good job, Byron.
Sorry, Tracy.
So when you say it's controlled environment, do you mean the classroom and then whatever?
The
apps?
software is too, so we would import all our teachers and their students in there, then a teacher can assign different stuff within this program and watch what kids are doing within a certain program.
But
So
they
makes
can
sense.
use that program just in the building or,
On their devices.
okay.
So they won't have access to like ChatGPT and some of these
no,
others.
no,
They're-
no, no, no.
The only AI option they'll have is the one you're providing, which is very regulated.
Correct.
Okay.
Is this something that you yourself have familiarized yourself with and feel confident putting it in the hands?
Yes,
I'm
so
just
this
thinking
is-
back to when we rolled out the iPads and we
So
didn't
this
quite
is,
have that
the
figured
program that
out.
we're adopting is adopted by lots and lots of schools. Very popular. We're not the only ones. It's built strictly for education. So yes,
Okay.
it's safe.
And how the teachers feel about it? I mean, as far as they look at it.
Like everything, everybody's scared a little bit at some level, right, when something new comes in. But that doesn't mean you get to put your head in the sand and act like it's not there. It's something that's coming that we have to all learn to deal with as it comes, because it is just a fact of
Well,
life.
it's not coming, it's here.
It's coming to schools.
We're catching up.
Yes.
I think it's like,
There-
where's the line?
Yeah, so like, there's surveys out there, 70% of kids cheated somehow before, and 70% of kids are still cheating, they're just doing it different, right, Ted? Todd, we've never cheated, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's just controlling the environment so that we can help them learn how to use it in a controlled way that's not,
In monitoring.
The wild, wild
the-
west.
The back and forth.
in moderating, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
So back to so the teachers are gonna have like someone onboarding,
Yeah, that's all, yeah, yeah.
so they're gonna be okay and comfortable with it when you roll it out. Okay.
You have Matt set out like monthly training for teachers so that they're more confident. So there's a.
There'll be a lot of PD
Yeah.
that comes along with it, and guidelines and helpful documents that teachers can use in their classrooms and all the other stuff that.
What's
Yep.
PD?
Professional development. Sorry.
Got it. Nope.
Okay, thanks. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak on this discussion item? All right. We will move on to the 25-26 student handbook revisions.
There's so many discussion.
Yes.
That's fine.
Good evening. Well, just for the high school, I have 68 pages to go through, and then the elementary, so I hope everyone's comfortable on this. Okay. So I have something happening right there. Tracy caught on. The handbook edits, you guys do have a copy of the handbook edits. Holly and Joan worked on the secondary edits early June, so I'm gonna kind of just go through those. They're color-coded. Items that need further discussion, suggested changes, suggested deletes, and then new. So of course, and I do have the 68-page document up here, and I'm sure that you can all see it online. It's the same document that's been online for the entire school year, and I can thank Janelle for helping me out with that a long time ago when I called her by her maiden name. So of course, the first change is going to be on page 2 when it comes to just name changes, new teachers and different things like that. Page 8 is the items that need further discussion, just to kind of clarify a little bit. Transfers into NWCS. Holly and John said consider adding district policy to include transfer criteria. We already have a district policy on that, so it's policy 4018 when it comes to that. So not quite for sure. It's on board docs. You can take a look at that. I do have a copy of that as well if you need to see that. Academics, page 16. So items that need discussion. They said after the grading scale and honor roll, we suggest we cut grade requirements and graduation pathways and replace those with the new language that we're going to have. They're called diploma seals. And there's a link to that, and I've been diving into that as well. So with the diploma seals, things are going to be a little bit different when you graduate now. So you have different seals that you can earn, and then also looking at, we're gonna have an accountability A through F grade coming up through soon as well. I have a hard copy of that if anyone wants to take a look at that, but it's not finalized, we're just sending this out for discussion, it should be finalized in December. Claiming that it's supposed to be better as far as kids getting a letter grade. It's not just you pass the test, you didn't pass the test. You look at where the kid is. Did they improve? Did they move from this level to this level or this level to this level? And you get points for that. So they would like to put a link into the handbook so people can look at it.
On the seals, and I may be wrong, is that for all students moving forward in this year, or is that starting with the freshman class?
Starting with the freshman class.
So how are we, is there a distinction
Yep.
for incoming students to the 25-26 year that this is what they have to follow? Because I don't think we want to remove the other.
Yeah, we're leaving everything in as it is. This is just a link with diploma information in the high school. And this is just points the reader to the data information. So we're not changing anything as far as the handbook and what requirements or different things like that. This is just added.
Would there be a notation that that specifically is for the 25-26 incoming freshmen?
Yep, absolutely. Yep, I will write that down. Dress code. Any other questions about that?
Just real quick, if we go back to the page 8, you said consider adding the actual policy. Would you consider just referencing the policy number for a quick, like,
Yep,
search
and
up? Okay.
We could do that. The reference of policy, board policy is 4018.
Yeah, like add that onto.
Perfect.
Like,
Yep.
Versus
not the
putting-
whole policy, but just say it's that, whatever.
Yep, thank you. I appreciate that.
And the same thing, you could even just link to, like we're doing here.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Any other discussion? Dress code on page 21. They wanted to add the words on number 6. They wanted to add biker shorts, and then they wanted to take off on number 9, it took out biker shorts. So it's just putting it in one place and getting rid of it in another. Bus transportation's on page 24. There is information on bus transportation. We have, we have the technology part that we want to add in there. And then the bus transportation, we need to add some of the information on that when it comes to we have rules that we posted back in October, but we're going to add those in here just to make it clean. And there were rules again in October 2024 that we already had the handbook out. So we didn't have it in the handbook, but now we'd like to have it in the handbook. On page 33, so on this one, we would like to add, with our devices right now, financial restitution that ranges from repair cost to the entire replacement cost for the devices right now. So if something breaks, that it's a responsibility for someone to pay for it and not just say, oh, it's broke, let's buy another one. Crisis reporting. So the crisis reporting is on page 34. I'm going through because I couldn't even get a staple through this document, so I'm really trying to hurry a little bit. On the crisis reporting, with that, we would like to delete all student iPads come with and make it school, student, issued student devices. We would like to take out, there is an other category, okay, and it's highlighted in red, okay. We want to change Northern Wells to Norwell. We have places within this document and also on our website where kids can report crisis reporting. Meal prices on page 35 will change. That's a given. On page 37, we suggest to take out the year with meal prices, so then that way we can just change them whenever we need to. On page 37, well, we are talking about instead of saying possessing, using, transmitting, or being affected by controlled substances, we would like to add mind-altering substances.
My concern on this one is while I understand the idea behind it, there are some people that would say sugar is a mind-altering device or caffeine. And so I don't.
Benadryl?
Yeah, and so I think putting that in there is really ambiguous, and I could say, hey, this kid was they were hopped up on coffee this morning, why are they not in trouble? So I know it was suggested by a fall safety conference, but I don't know how you adjudicate that without a lot of issues.
Okay.
Or I shouldn't say a lot of issues. I could see issues, and I'd rather not have issues. So I would just make a suggestion that maybe we revisit that or take it out if we can't define it better.
Did you
I
guys
guess.
have specific?
That's what I'm wondering. Yeah, like,
Specifics that would fall under that umbrella?
Will you say that one more time?
Did you guys have specifics that would fall under the mind-altering substance? Like, or were you thinking like, I don't know, like,
So when we went to the conference, and that was one of the things that they mentioned, that covered a lot of things, things that you can get at a gas station.
Yeah.
Or, you could say, in all honesty, if you're abusing something, anything can be mind-altering. Oxygen, anything. So that was suggested just to cover everything, but I do see your concern about, as I said, caffeine, Benadryl, something that is mind-altering. They were focusing mainly on some of the legal but not legal things that they're selling at the gas stations.
Yeah.
That they shouldn't be selling to minors, but sometimes it happens on accident.
so that would still technically be illegal. So is that the way that we could word it? Illegal mind-altering substances?
Well, but they're not
They're illegal if you're
they're
not
illegal if you're not
21.
correct as a minor, yes.
I
Yeah,
don't know,
because
just.
I think that, like Corey, I think we're creating a gray area rather than a black and white, and when, I think leaving it up to interpretation causes problems. So I think if we can define it a little bit more, I mean, I feel like everything after that's a lot of the other mind-altering things.
Yeah, because there's a lot in there, so if they find something else that doesn't fall under those, like.
I mean, I know
they
they're
get a good
all,
job.
but maybe adding illegal in there might.
Yeah, I don't know, that one just stuck out at me, but I know you have a lot, so.
what's that stuff called at the gas station? I can't think, but that, you still have to be 21 to get it, right?
You can get that horny
But like-
goat weed stuff, that's
Yeah.
a number, I know that. They used to sell that when we were little, or young.
I don't know which one.
Oh.
Don't ever say that again in a public
Yeah.
meeting.
Okay. Those are the types of things that I agree, like, that's bad, but I don't know, like, I just don't know. I don't want it to be gray.
Okay. So is the board saying they would like to add the word illegal in there, or do we bring it back for
I
discussion?
think we bring it back, like if we have a
Okay, bring it back for
recommendation
discussion.
based on what the
Yeah,
concerns are.
Absolutely.
We could do a little research.
On number 21, just getting rid of during an academic examination. We would like to add on E, on number 27, the word instead, right after lewd, vulgar, racist. We would like to add those words. There's a matrix on page 44. This is again for the high school and the middle school. Elementary was easy when I get to that one. They would like to add inappropriate physical contact, and they would like for that to be detention, 1-day suspension to 3-day suspension. So there's 3 different levels. So a detention, a 1-day suspension, 3-day suspension. They would also like to add threat, 3-day suspension, possible police report for the first level, 5-day suspension, possible police report for the second level, and then police report and expulsion then for the third step in the matrix. They would like to remove the random drug testing labeling right here on page 65. The wording there is a little bit inaccurate. Elementary, it was nice. They would like to just add this sentence: due to constantly changing clothing styles, the school administration has the authority to determine if any clothing is appropriate or not, basically. That was their change. The new AI language was added in there, so you can read through that. and as well as the technology responsible use policy for grades 6 through 12. We just cleaned it up a little bit. I say we as in I did none of the work. The tech team did the work, and I'm presenting it today. So if you have questions, you can ask Byron.
Byron, is there anything that you need that you want to highlight for them, honestly, in that part?
So really, all we did is there's the technology use policy's been added on to and added on to over the years as new stuff comes up. And if you read it, it was very clunky. So we just took most of it and rearranged it into topics, because there'd be like something here and something here that went together, but it didn't really, it was a tough read. So we more or less condensed, rearranged, cleaned up, organized what was there. There's not a lot of changes to what's in there. It's just more or less organized a lot better than what it had been as we'd added to it over the years.
Under the safe use section, it says interacting with strangers online is discouraged. Is that, like, do we just want to discourage it, or do we want to say it's prohibited? Or is this on their school devices, or why would they communicate with a stranger through our device?
They shouldn't, and I would say I'm never gonna say they can't. Kids do wonderful things to devices to get around what we set up to make them safe.
But if this is about our devices, I see your point, like we could say it's prohibited, like you can't do that. Is what you're
Instead
saying?
of-
Without
I just feel like
repercussions, yes.
Discouraged is like, well, we would frown upon that
Right.
if you did that.
Right, but if you actually did that, that would be,
I just.
I wouldn't have a problem changing it.
yeah, that's a good
But
point.
does that make sense, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are there any other questions with the suggested rewording?
I'll add one more thing. The AI policy is kind of the policy we talked about earlier, but condensed a lot for a student handbook
Yes, it's-
that don't read quite as long, but the same general concept.
Okay. Or just move that under the prohibited behaviors section, since you have that.
You mean the other one you're talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Mhm. Yeah, could you just go in this part right here, Byron?
Yeah.
Another bullet
The
there.
interacting with strangers online goes down to prohibited behaviors.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Okay, the next parts that you see here, you may not want to sit down, Byron. There is more with Norwell Community Schools device care policy. So it's also something that was reworded. And then also up here in green was adding student should, and that was the AI that he was talking about, but the Norwell Community Schools device care policy. So it's just changing some of the wording. It's basically everything that was in there, changing some wording from iPad to school issue device, and at the same time making it look a little cleaner.
Good.
I will take a look and make those changes and bring it back to our next board meeting. Thank you.
All right, ECA. Oh, I apologize. Are there any other discussion of the board for those handbook modifications? Are there any members of the public wishing to speak in regard to the modifications suggested in the handbook? Kelby.
I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to be here. In all honesty, last year we came to you with some changes, kind of a philosophical difference or a philosophical change, trying to make our code of conduct to be more informative, restorative, and I think we were successful in doing that. The changes that I have, I kind of go through a little bit, but many of them are simple wording things. You know, first page A, it should say and. Extracurricular rules were actually no use of tobacco or nicotine. The word continine is actually the metabolite. So a lot of these are some changes in how we worded things. You go down to 9 on page 3, it said if an ECA participant violates conditions in the ECA participant handbook. Well, it's actually our school's, school student parent handbook. So we tried to change those things up. When we got into our violations, first violation, second violation, the wording in both of them were, last year they were a little different. So we wanted to make them to be, first of all, to be uniform. The big change that I would like to make in there, about halfway down there, it says participants in the meeting must include the ECA participant, the parent, guardian, sponsor, coach, guidance counselor, and a building administrator. One of the tough things we struggle with at the high school anyways is that we have a large portion of our coaches who are lay coaches. When we're sitting down with a parent and a student to meet about a situation, and we're gonna have them, at least for me personally, philosophically, I really wanna make sure that we're able to have our school guidance counselors available. If we have to meet with a coach at 5 o'clock and we have to wait for our coach, Kelly Goody's gonna be willing to stay. She's gonna come and be that participant, but it takes our actual counselors who have a chance to see that kid every day out of that meeting and out of that loop. We will make every attempt to try to include all of them all the time, but I would like to be able to have some leeway where if a coach can't be there, we can have the guidance counselor, we can have the parent, myself, the student, and bring coaches on board once we go through that first part of the process. Because we're really trying to surround the kid with people in their lives to be there to say, hey, we're here to support you. So that's a change that we would like to try to see made. As I go through, if you go to page 5, I thought we got into the weeds a little bit. Down towards the bottom, said ECA participants shall not be convicted of a felony. And then it got into or commit any act which is punishable or committed. Participation in extracurriculars during the pendency of any formal charge, whether an adult or juvenile court, will be restricted, or until the charges are dropped or resolved. I think we kind of got in the weeds there a little bit, like, how do we know what all these things are going on? And I think you get into the guilty before proven guilty situation when you have all that stuff in there. So we tried to clean that up and simply make that a simple statement. As you get into administration and procedure, those changes are essentially lined up with the idea that when we do registration anymore, everything is basically electronic. We're not handing out all these paper copies. We're doing random drug testing, signing up for that online. You're signing off on the school handbook, which includes our ECA handbook. So those things are, and we will be happy to provide those. I mean, we'll have them, all paper copies. Anybody wants paper copies, we'll make them until the cows come home. But we also know that the way we're doing it digitally, Mike's killing me with the digitally stuff. We're doing it digitally. I like my paper. I like paper copies. But the digital stuff kind of helped, some of the wording is to try to clean that up. Norwell, our athletic-specific eligibility stuff down here on page 6, at the bottom of page 6, again, some of that said Norwell High School, some of it said you had to have a file on the main office. Again, that's consent. This policy also includes middle school, so that's why we said, school student parent handbook. By signing off, you received this school student handbook, you're acknowledging you have the extracurricular guidelines. So again, some of those are some semantic changes. I will bring you to number 7, or page 7 at the very bottom. One of the things that we kept fighting with a little bit was, it's not a huge deal, but we had a piece in there essentially like any preseason, and I'm talking about contracted stuff. I'm not talking about like the football team's gonna go do a thud, which is it's supposed to not be a tackle football, but if you've ever watched thud, it's tackle. But it's not a contracted. So these would be actually, we took that out, I'd like to take that piece out, because if a kid has to miss a preseason scrimmage, it's a contracted event, that should count as part of our schedule, in terms of determining their eligibility, at least in my opinion. The night contract, again, that's something we used to try to catch paper with, like my paper. But by signing off on the ECA, by signing off on the handbook, We also understand that parents and students are signing off essentially on our extracurricular guidelines. And then when you got into the random drug testing policy, we tried to make sure that that information was kind of the same. You're signing off on it, as well as that the circumstances for your violations read the same that they do in the other parts of the ECA handbook. Other than that, I don't have a lot, I mean, I don't have anything major to change, or that I wanted to see changed. But I wanted to bring those to you tonight. What questions do you have?
On page 3, under number 5.
Yep.
You crossed out will and put may, and in my opinion, that makes it very.
What page are we on?
Page
Oh,
3.
Yep, sorry.
Number 5. Crossing out will and putting may, in my opinion, makes that a gray area. So what's the thought process behind that?
Yeah, I feel like that's gonna take disciplinary actions to be less black and white and to be much more gray. It's number 5.
Yes, I see it.
I mean, yeah, may and shall have some significant differences in the way that they are. I would rather see shall versus may, because I don't like interpretation, and it creates a inconsistent treatment.
Okay.
And I don't know what you're thinking, I mean, wasn't part of the discussion when you guys are doing this, but I'm wondering as I'm listening to that, was it because there's just such a wide range, right, of stuff that happens on social media, right? And so, where I agree with you guys that, we want to try to be as consistent as possible, so we do. But the range sometimes you're dealing with what's on social media, and so, which I guess depicts inappropriate behavior. I mean, I think there's just a continuum on that, like what, I don't know. I mean, because again, and I hate this stuff, right? I wish we wouldn't do it at all.
Right.
But is that the thinking?
Yeah, and part of it is the word inappropriate makes it a difficult too. I mean, what's.
Right.
Word inappropriate opens us up to.
Well, I'm wondering if maybe
definition.
separating that into two different sentences
Mhm.
to allow for may after an inappropriate.
If it's illegal,
If
right.
it's illegal, it should be shall.
Right.
So, because I think if we're putting shall in there, we're saying that, or we're putting may in there, we're saying that depicting illegal may be, well, it really should be. So I wonder if we should separate the inappropriate, so that I agree that inappropriate could be up to determination on what's really determined inappropriate.
It does kind of define it, then after
'Cause
that may be defined as, but.
Yeah, but that's, again, maybe defined as
Right.
these things, but I think that maybe separating the illegal and inappropriate into two different sentences, allowing may to be after inappropriate and shall being after illegal.
And I'm open to working through that one,
Yeah.
for sure. And again, I think for me, I just get into some of the, as a kid, it was illegal for us to go to the stone quarry and jump. We were jumping in the stone quarry. Do I get suspended athletically for that because it was illegal?
Well, it's trespassing and you were arrested for it.
I wasn't arrested. My mom knew by the time I got home, but I wasn't arrested.
Big difference.
Yeah.
Right,
First
yeah.
time she wasn't happy, the second time she really wasn't happy, so. But I'm happy to work through
Yeah,
that
let's
one.
look back at that. I think going back to
That was kind of a tough one for me.
going back to the spirit of what we talked about last year with this, though, too, that our goal is that we're not looking for places where we can penalize kids and remove them from stuff. We're trying to frame things in a way that we're guiding kids to be a better version of themselves as they keep moving through
I think
Norwell.
that's kind of where we
So,
were, it was like,
Yeah.
this was like holding us rigidly.
Yeah, well,
And again, I'm not trying to say, hey, we're just gonna let everybody happen and do whatever they do, but.
right.
Yeah, but
No, it's a good point.
my concern is some of the complaints that we have had of why did you do it to this student and you didn't do it to this? And I feel like this creates even more opportunity for those complaints of why did they get punished this way and this student didn't? I think just, again, trying to make it more black and white, it's more to cover you and so that there's no perceived, favoritism.
Sure. Understood. Yeah, I'll be happy to work on that one.
I just think the social networking world is a tricky topic, so I don't know how you save the kids from themselves on those forums,
Yeah.
so.
That's why
And I think that's what you're trying to do here. I mean, that's how I am interpreting it. And, because they need to know, like, people can see what you're doing.
Yeah.
It doesn't go away, so. Good luck with that.
Appreciate it, thank you, Tracy.
You're welcome.
On the one you said about the coach and Kelly Goody, which I completely understand, my question would be, should we put language in there about, which is on page 4, right in the middle of it? Like, once again, just to make it simple, there should, or not simple, but to me, if we say, hey, we need to change this to should include, and then it's just you and the student or whomever.
That's never gonna happen.
Well, and I get it.
The whole goal here was to bring parents in, bring guidance people in.
Right. So my concern would be, or I guess would be like, do we need to say, hey, it has to at least include you, the parents and the kid, if we can get them, great. Because what I can see is like, oh, well, Kelby just met with my kid and I get it, but I,
Right.
like you said, Chad, I want to make it as simple or
And that's
easy
what I'm
for
wondering,
you.
if instead of taking must out and putting should in, leave must and put the sponsor / coach or a guidance counselor or a building administrator, because I think that's where you want some flexibility of, right?
What I really want is I want to make sure our guidance counselors are tuned in with our situations. I felt like we
Right.
had several situations where we were meeting at 5 o'clock. Kelly does a great job, but then we were bringing our guidance people back in and they were kind of felt like they've been left out of the process.
Right.
And they want to be part of that process. You know, we assign them we assign them coursework. They sat down 3 to 6 times with kids. They sat and talked about the courses. They're talking about how they're coming along. They provide a safe haven for that kid. So the goal is to make sure that our school counselors are readily involved. Again, nothing against Kelly.
Right.
But to have Brooke and Tracy and Ked actively involved with those kids.
Yeah, maybe it is like must include these and then may also include.
Yeah, because if you do it during the school, like you said, the coach may not be there, but you can fill them in
And it may
later.
even be one of our teachers.
Right, yeah.
I think when you said something to me about this, you also didn't want to slow down the process, like you wanted to,
Right.
we need to move forward. And if we're waiting on one person because we said they must be there,
Right.
then it was, we can reword that. I mean, you can
Yeah,
figure that out.
I'm happy
Yeah.
to, I'll work on that one. Any others?
That's all I had.
No? Thank you.
Kelly?
Are there any members of the public wishing to speak on behalf of this agenda item? All right, moving on to an update, and then a discussion item on transportation procedures.
Yeah, let me get that here. I thought I had it.
Update on routes and then a
Right.
discussion on
Yeah,
transportation.
sorry, I thought I had that linked up here already, I'll go back. Yeah, so a couple of things I'm gonna ask, I know they're really not wanting to do this, but I'm gonna ask them to anyway. But if Lisa Hanny and Amy Crow and Connie Clark would just come forward, just because, and I know I don't think Jenny's here with us right now, but putting together the routes.
Oh, yeah, I just say I thought she
Oh, is
was
Jenny here?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, Jenny, you can come up too. But no, this was, so yeah, the discussion part is really what we talk about with the procedures, not so much the bus route part, but did want to just update everybody on that, and the work that goes into it. So the routing system that we have, I mean, I think back to watching, and Connie came in and helped a little bit too, but Amy and Lisa taking the brunt of it last year, putting those together with paper and trying to figure all that out and adjust, especially when we were short drivers to start the year, and how we were going to kind of make all that work and get kids to school day one. There's a lot of background work going into with this software because it's relying upon what's in PowerSchool, what gets into TransFinder, and then we've got what's a rollover that's going to happen with PowerSchool, all this stuff. And so it's just making sure that kids are showing up and that parents have then, because registration online in the spring, like that's kind of a new thing for us too, to make sure we're doing that online right away. And so just making sure all that information's right Okay, and so, because there's some kids that are AM only, PM only, they have an alternate pickup for PM, and there's a lot, right, that goes into that. So we want to make sure that's right. So we spend a lot of time organizing that. We also know that as we're building these routes, we wanted to look at the geography, because right now we have, we either have our buses, some bus drivers leave it at Family Ford. We may end up having some at Ossian Elementary, and then we have bus drivers taking their buses home. And so making sure as we're moving forward here to doing our routes, that they're efficient, but they're efficient time-wise, but they're also efficient in fuel costs, because that's a place where we're going to have to need to reduce. So all of that in place. There's a lot involved in putting those routes together. We're really close to being able to start communicating out to parents on it. But yes, I'm going to let you talk here.
No,
But
you said everything that's on my paper.
but I wanted, maybe you guys can
Say it
reiterate on
again.
some of those things that, as you were putting together the routes and helping me with that as you're organizing how the routes were going to be redesigned, kind of what your thought process is and what was important from your standpoint as we were trying to do that.
Well, the first time we met, we were only gonna meet for 2 hours, and it ended up being
All day.
4, 6, I don't remember.
Yeah.
Ordered pizza?
No, he wouldn't feed us.
That's not true. I tried to feed, no, I tried to feed them a couple times and they wouldn't do it, so.
He did.
He tried to share his tuna sandwich.
Yeah, that's right. That's true.
But we started, and we just started ripping every route apart and trying to make it so it made sense. I've been here over 25 years, and a lot of times we have 4 drivers going down the same road. There's no reason for it. It's wasting time, wasting fuel, wear and tear on the buses. So we come up, we got them all set up, and Mike goes, okay, we'll print them off, you guys go run them. So 3 of us got in a bus. Thank goodness it was in a bus. We'd have probably been arrested.
Probably.
We went up into Zanesville. What is that one called?
Stony Brook Edition up there, most of you know where that's at. It's
There
got
was
two roads, in it, 2 streets.
maybe 10 kids to pick up.
Yeah.
We were in there 5 times.
And it had you leaving. It would have you go in and go down one street, and it would have you go east of Zanesville, clear to Union 100, and go south, and go down about a mile or 2, pick up a couple kids that had to cross the road, and then they wanted you to turn around right there.
And on the same road, come back and pick the other kids on the same side of the road that you made the ones cross.
For the love.
And there happened to be a guy sitting,
Through Zanesville, on our porch.
seen us go by 5 times.
And so some of that, so what the route will do, and we started learning more about the optimizing button and smart sequencing and that sort of thing, but there's also like, the order depends on where someone might be starting from,
Yes,
right? So that
made a
mattered.
big difference.
That mattered, and then also like, just your knowledge of knowing where you can turn around someplace, right? Or knowing
Yes,
either,
because right now the system is telling us to turn around like on a state road, and of course, that's illegal. We
Right,
can't do
right.
that. So there are little things that we are still learning about the system
Yeah.
that we're gonna have to work those
But
things out.
but
So
even
we
like.
just keep tweaking them.
But even like you guys know of a residence that has a wide enough drive and they're fine with you turning around there, or a place of business or whatever, like those kind of places that obviously a program's not going to know. And so there's those things in it too. And you want to talk about bus stops too, like, because that's something going to be new for us.
In the housing additions, we've designed just some bus stops that we feel are safe for the kids to come to, and it will save time with the kids being on the bus, because those buses are hot when we start school and when we end school.
It'll save us from having to turn around in some of these cul-de-sacs that you've got all these garbage cans sitting, or somebody's got their pickup truck and trailer,
Right.
and everything's sitting, we're gonna have them walk to the end of the streets.
And when we had
Go
our,
down every
I know,
cul-de-sac.
sorry, Connie, and I know Jenny, I think were you at that parent meeting that we had?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's so I think just about every parent that was there, we had like, I don't know, 20, 30 parents there, talked about, would you guys please do bus stops? Now, I'm sure there's going to be some, because they're used to maybe, stops coming right to your door, or whatever. And I know that's gonna be adjustment for some people, but, you know, parents that we had in that meeting just said, listen, our kids are on the bus, it's too long. I don't understand why we don't have bus stops here. Like we, you know, in neighborhoods where you can do common bus stops, like that's gonna speed up these routes, and you need to do that. Now, as we work through that, there may be times where, as bus drivers actually run it, or we see kids that are actually riding, that there may be some of that tweaked. You know, but I think that was an important part of this, to make sure we're
We
making these
still have
efficient.
tweaking to do. We don't know exactly if every kid is registered, which ones have moved, if new ones have moved in that haven't gotten contact with transportation yet.
And I will say, so we spent all day today, Jenny, Krista, and I, we spent going through that, the kids that weren't identified yet, and we cut those numbers, I mean, in half. There weren't as many as we thought, and there's some that just aren't registered that will just, hopefully this parent communication, they'll let us know either they're coming back or they're not, or whatever. And there's some that I think we have to work on the alternate route and make sure that that's in there correctly. But it cleaned it up a lot from when you would have seen it last. So, yeah, it looks really good.
With the bus stops, I think that's a great opportunity for the new SRO to stop at each of those at the beginning of the year, at the very least, to A, meet the kids that are there, B, make sure that it's safe. I mean, I know you guys would not pick a not safe spot, but I just think that'd be a good idea. So someone.
Another set of eyes on it.
Yeah.
Agreed. All right, so is there anything else you want to talk about with that? I would say we did have, so we sent it out to drivers, and I think this is, you know, we had a process where, you know, drivers could bid on it. And we looked at geography first, then we looked at seniority, which would be seniority in Norwell, and then seniority overall, number of years that you've driven. We were pretty close to people getting, I think there was only maybe 4 situations where they didn't get their first choice, or they got one of their first choices, so maybe they got their first choice with high school, but maybe not with elementary. Because the other thing to talk about, like your aha with K-12 routes as you were looking at this.
If we did follow through with the K through 12, we've got them pretty much set up that it will work. I mean, we'll have to go in and tweak it every year. Just, you're gonna have to, no matter what. And we may have to make another route or two, and.
But you're saying you think we could do it, not this year, obviously, but.
Right.
No, I wouldn't do it this year.
Just because you're just starting with this new transminder program and getting everybody used to it.
Right, but I would just
Trying
be
to
clear.
change the stops.
Yeah, a big thing will be finding out how many kids are actually riding, because we'll have kids rostered, but with the kids swiping their card and then actually seeing these kids actually rode, and that's something to talk about in our procedures here, but, that we need to discuss, but I think that's gonna be big. But we wouldn't have enough drivers to do K-12 this year, like we do, I think with the 7 that I talked about that are interested, you know, we could get there, but we're not ready right now. We would need more drivers than we have right now.
Before, our routes were, like what I had for high school, somebody else had for elementary, or vice versa. Now, you're going to be in the same area as your high school route. Your elementary is going to be the same place your high school route is. That's not going on. So I guess that's something that we could look at. That's how we're going to have to do, of course, our K through 12. So that's what, I guess what you're saying.
So you run the same route?
I mean-
Most of us, there's some areas where there's just not a lot of kids, and it's not gonna work that way.
Right.
You won't, we're trying to get it so, you know, that area would have the same bus driver. Parents would get to know the bus driver, feel comfortable. And
Yeah. The geographic, I would say probably with 70%, 75% of our routes, it's almost mirrored between high school and elementary. But there's a few where it's not, and
Yeah,
there's
there's
just,
just a few
there's just some
where it's
places
not.
where you have more high school kids riding and less elementary or vice versa. So it changes it up a little bit, but, yeah, but that was interesting just saying, well, this is possible, right?
Yeah.
We're looking at it.
Once
So-
you put all your little zigzags all over.
Do you like the new system?
Yeah, that was my next question. Does it help you guys at all? Because it feels like you just like tweaked it and did it yourself. I don't know.
I was gonna say, we don't really know it. We haven't, we just trained them.
We're basically doing what we did last year
Yeah.
without the
You're-
paper. We're making him run
Well, no, you're not making me. I chose that as my word, no. But, no, so.
We haven't actually worked with the.
So what I would say,
iPad.
I'll just answer that question just because, so the training's been with Jenny and me and then a little bit with Krista. But yeah, so they're telling me, so they're sitting in the room, they got a big monitor that they're looking at, they're telling me, okay, yeah, let's put it here, so I'm doing that part of it. But and it's what's true with any software you get, it's the setting it up first, that's gonna take you the most amount of work. So, right now, it's still saving time for what we did last year. You think about last year at this time, I mean, it was stressful at the end, and papers, and changing this and whatever, and work, I mean, it was nuts. So it's better even now, we're way ahead now than where we would have been without this. But the key is after this now, once we have all this input and going through the process of parents learning that, hey, you really need to pre-register and make sure you do that when we send that out in May and April, like that's really important, or May and June. Like, that's really important to get that done. So that's number one. But then I think, then every year as we go through and put this in, it's just a matter of tweaking what our enrollments changed. I think we need to do our rollover for Power School a little sooner. So there's those kind of things with the data. But like, setting it up is hard work right now.
Once we get everything set
Yeah.
up, it should run, next year should run a lot smoother.
Okay.
And I would say too, in your discussion about a transportation director, again, I don't mind doing this, and it's good because we're working together, and it'd be hard, you'd have to be giving input with someone you're bringing on new anyway, but this really shouldn't be my job doing this, probably, because there's other things I need to be focused on. And so someone that this is the only thing they're focused on, that's also gonna make it a lot easier, and it's not gonna take this much time. And so that's the other piece of it too.
And the kids all swipe their cards, so you'll know who's on and off, and then you could, if, let's say, God forbid, you have an accident, you know who's on that.
That's our understanding.
That's what they
Yes,
tell us.
yes.
That's, and I think a lot of people
100%.
don't understand that, because that is,
Yes.
if somebody's running late, it can send out emails and stuff as far, or text, as far as I understand.
Yes, yeah, so the Stop Finder, which is what parents are gonna be downloading, I may not do it, we had said we were gonna do it the 9th, just because we're really close to being, I'd say 90%, 95% accurate on the information that parents have given us on whether they've chosen AM only, PM only. So I may kick that to Friday where we send it out. You generally wanna try to do it on a Wednesday, so there's more time for questions and things like that. But we're gonna send a form and have parents put their questions on the form. So it may be Friday just because I want to make sure that we have as little mistakes as possible in it. But anyway, that Stop Finder app, parents will download that and they can push messages out to the bus driver and say, Johnny's not riding today, he's sick, or has basketball after school or something, not riding, whatever. And that's huge because I know I rode with Jason one time and I remember we were looking at, sorry, Jason, he's back there, but had I don't know, Jason, you can help me on this, but maybe driving 10 minutes in one direction. He said, yeah, then sometimes a kid doesn't ride, and I don't know that. And I've gone all the way out to that house, and I've waited, and that just was a waste of fuel, time, and everything else. So, but again, it'll take parents sending that communication to us. Just because they have the app doesn't mean that they'll do it. I hope they will, because that really helps our driver. But then the driver can also say, stopped at a train here, going to be 15 minutes late, expect delays or something like that. Can send that out to the parents in a mass communication. So that'll be really nice.
Yeah, because I had an incident when my daughter was younger, she got off on the wrong stop.
Yeah.
I think she was talked into, but we'll leave it at that. But no one knew where she was. And so we had to go find her,
Yeah.
or something like this is gonna tell you right away.
Would tell you exactly they were on the bus or.
Or should she be getting off there, and,
Right.
yeah.
With the 6 to 7 new drivers coming on, are they ready to, I know the one is still new or whatever, but
Yeah.
is anybody ready for the school year? Or what's that gonna be
No,
like?
and they won't be, because
No.
part of what they have to do is ride with,
Well,
Lisa.
they have to train with me,
Right.
and I'm gonna start training, I'm meeting with 2 of them tomorrow. And then, a lot of it depends on them, how
Okay.
much time they wanna commit to learning everything, because there's a lot of stuff that they have to know, and it can be overwhelming, and these drivers here can tell you, it's a
Some
lot.
of it, you have to be word for word.
Or
they
it's an
fail.
automatic fail.
You say one word wrong when you're writing something and you're done.
Or if
don't
you
go
do the
farther.
procedure wrong, which, when you're being tested.
Mhm.
Never
You're
said
I
it.
failed my first time.
We got a 2 back there.
He's doing great now.
drivers, then they have to get with Courtney, do the drug test.
We pretty much have all that.
Background
I think they're ready.
check,
So those,
I think
so to answer your
majority
question,
of
all
them
but the
are.
one that just applied are ready for the training now.
I had one call me today, he
Yeah.
doesn't have his permit,
Uh-huh.
so he was just talking to me what he needs to do.
Okay.
So I told him, he's been there twice and failed.
Okay, okay. But then even after they go to Indy, because that's where we go now for it, and do their testing, even after they pass that, they still need to drive
They
with
still
you.
need to observe
So 4 hours and then drive 8?
8 hours
Yes.
before we can let them loose.
So we'll have to, I mean, I think, so right now with our routes, I didn't say this part, but right now we're down, so we would have enough drivers right now to do it. We have 15 less high school routes than we had last year, so, which we had 17 routes last year in high school, and then 15, I think.
16.
16 for elementary
No, we have 16 high school, 14 elementary.
this year?
Yes,
Okay, is it 16?
yeah.
Yes.
Okay, oh, that's right.
Because Max,
Maxwell is 16, yes, going out to Living Faith, or, Living Faith. But, so 16, yeah, 16 routes, so we would have one less right now than last year what we had. And I'm not counting special
Expecting one
education
to
routes, I'm
get
talking
through.
general routes.
so
Yeah.
he can start.
Yeah. So, that being said, but still, we want to make sure that we're still building that up, because there's different roles that we can have with permanent subs we've been talking about forever. Different things that we can use a sub if someone wants to do ECA. I think there's just a lot of things. We have a lot of needs to meet, as we know, especially in the fall and the spring, when it comes to ECA routes. And the more drivers we have to make that happen, the better. So, well, let's get into the procedures part. So I'll tell you, I appreciate, I want to just give a shout out to Dr. Yates at Bluffton, because they have some of these, well, stay for a second, because these are important parts to this for you guys, if you don't mind. But he shared with me, they have it online, but we talked a little bit about procedures that they have in place. And one of the things talked about, like, how they do bus stops. And so what we defined in our bus stops, they have, I forget what it is for high school. I can't remember how many tenths of a mile. I'd have to go back and look. It is for high school. It's 2 blocks for elementary that they
I think you
use.
said 8 tenths.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's right. I don't know if I'm remembering that right. So, but whatever it is, they have a greater distance for high school kids that they do for stops that they can walk to. Elementary, they had 2 blocks. So we just did, since it's our first year really doing that. We've had different drivers that have used stops. We haven't done it just universally throughout all of our routes. And so we just did for both high school and elementary 2 blocks is what we've used as the distance. And again, that's maximum.
Is that mentioned in here?
Yes, it's your second to last bullet in the first part of them. Neighborhood bus stops are
Oh,
established.
okay, was that
Yeah.
changed?
Well, we didn't have any of this, so this is all new.
Oh, I thought just the highlighted area. was-
No,
Okay.
good question. No, this is all brand new.
The
that you guys
entire
are-
document.
The whole
Okay.
document's brand new. The highlighted part that I wanted kind of the board to discuss and you guys to talk about a little bit, and this is a hard one for us because, listening to bus drivers, we talked about, there's drivers that wouldn't see a kid all year till like the last 2 weeks or something. And going back to kind of the situation with Jason, like, you know, there may be someone on his route that's 10 minutes out of the way, but they don't really ever ride. So in talking with, and actually Byron was the first to kind of talk with me about this because he's a Bluffton parent, which, you know, there's that. But no, his kids live pretty close to the schools, and so, and maybe Byron, you can come up later and kind of talk about your situation, but if they didn't ride for a certain period of time, they were removed off the bus roster. And so they had to make a decision. And so his kids were, when it's nice out, they wanted to ride their bikes or walk or whatever, right? But in the winter, they're like, well, I want to ride it's 2 below or whatever, 10 degrees, I want to ride the bus today. But they had to make a choice. They had to decide either I'm riding the bus or I'm not. And so we're not there yet. We haven't done that. And so I just started messing around and talking with our drivers, like what would be a percentage that makes sense? Would it be if you look at like what I put in there, 20 days period of time,
Yeah.
right? If you don't ride for 60% of the time, then are you off? I don't know, because we have kids that only ride, so they're seasonal. If they're in sports, they don't ride. So this is purely a board discussion, like what do we want to do with that? Knowing that is an issue if kids are on a roster, especially geographically how we're laid out, but they physically never ride or very seldom ride. Like, what do we do with that?
So
They don't ride until a game gets canceled because of, or a tennis match because of rain, or, you know, we get snow, or practice, or whatever. I mean, that's
So it's a
something you
balance
gotta
between
think about.
service
I had one
and
that I did
efficiency.
not see all year
Yeah.
until the last day of school, which I went by the house. That was a problem for me. But like he said, maybe sometimes it's, you have to figure out how you get this person here when your route's here. So, I mean, that's something to think about.
Yeah.
And then you've got too, those kids that are in sports, different sports that don't ride, but they do need to ride if the practice gets canceled or something, you know, or a game gets canceled, or.
So what do you think about that?
That was my concern right away.
Right.
When I read it was, you know, what about the students who are participating in things after school? They may not ride at all in a 20-day period, but then in between seasons, you know, say they're in a fall sport and they have a little break before their winter sport, they may need to ride the bus for 2 weeks. And I don't think that we can tell them that they can't.
Right.
I just.
So I think that's the easy part, because I do think that there probably should be some language of, like, you could put yourself on vacation. Like, I'm wondering if that makes sense, like, hey, I'm signing up for bus transportation, but I don't need it between this date and this date. The problem is.
Unless my practice gets canceled.
That's the problem, right? Is the, how do you work around the practice cancellation or game cancellation issue?
Yeah.
I mean, you'd be like,
I
oh.
used you as an example
Here's-
in our meetings.
You did, okay, that's fine, but when I read that, I'm like, oh, that's us.
No, that's a good point.
It's not just
Well, it is.
It was my kids. It was my kids.
They were complaining about
Because I
this.
read that and I thought, oh crap, I don't know what I would do,
Yeah.
because she would miss until she gets her license.
What do I do?
So what could the language be? Because one of the
I don't
things.
know.
Yeah.
But I thought, well, she'd be kicked off, I don't
One
know
of the
what we
things in
do.
talking with Brad and other districts about it was, for that, like, if you're able to figure, like, but I guess it would be different to cancel, but if you're, like, just for seasonal, like, if you're not riding during, you know, all of football season or whatever, I mean, part of the argument would be, well, you figured it out for, 3 months, but, but I think sports is one thing, but it isn't like if you ride in the morning, but then you're not riding in the afternoon, if you're participating in some degree on it, I think that the issue would be if you just don't participate at all, like, how do we determine that, just because it is an issue, right, for you guys?
Right, we've got kids I had kids this year, I had 27 that never rode in the morning, but they rode every afternoon. They're all out-of-district kids. Their parents take them in the morning. I take them and drop them off at drop-offs in Markle, and there was 27 of them. But if you count in the morning, they never were on the morning route.
And that's a different thing, so we could even have something for out-of-district transportation,
Yeah.
we don't have to be
So
providing
you
that at
got that
all.
too.
But,
Right.
but that's a good point too, but even for resident kids, I mean, what do you guys think?
Is there, I guess we have this technology, is there anything on the app where parents can opt their kids in for this amount of time, opt them out for, I mean, I don't know, I've never seen it.
Yeah, the app would be more for like kind of daily communication things, I don't know. Actually, I'm trying to think of that, we have another training session with them tomorrow, so I can ask about that, maybe they can pick that on the app.
It'd be
but-
nice to be, I mean, even if, if a parent happens to go on vacation for a week, or, hey, they had a procedure and, they're on crutches and I'm gonna take them to school for 2 weeks or something, like, they don't need to stop here or something, I do think having a vacation type option of like, hey, I don't need to ride the afternoon bus because I'm in football. But again, I think where we have the issue is the cancellation issue.
Well, here, that I just thought about that though as you were talking, because we did, so maybe it's not a 20-day window, but in a 20, you think about how long a season is. So you think about like, what's our longest season, and maybe that's the window, because if it's canceled, you will have ridden the bus.
Yes.
Right? And so I don't know, I mean.
Seasons last way longer than 20
If
days.
it's
Yeah,
canceled.
right, so what would that
If
be
the
at?
season, you don't have something
Yeah,
canceled.
would it be, or do you look at a quarter, or do you look at I don't know. You're right, though, yeah, there's some that
What's
are
our
like,
longest season?
And
the football you never canceled, right? Unless it's-
yeah, winter is definitely the longest season.
I think this is a great time to talk about having a transportation director, because if our Stop Finder app doesn't have the ability to check someone in and out, then we need to find a new
No, it does.
technology. Well, then, to me, the easiest adjustment on this wouldn't be anybody that misses for 60%, because I think the issue comes in is when you don't know the issue. So to me, the adjustment would be.
Oh, I see what you're
when
saying.
someone's not telling us, like, hey, you didn't tell us for 20 straight days your kid wasn't riding and we had to change things, that's when you lose the option. If
Right.
school gets canceled and it's like, hey, I didn't know, I mean, I know
Practice, yeah.
I
So what if
had you,
that-
like, you didn't care. It's like, hey, we understand, so I think.
It's like an unexcused absence.
Yeah.
So I think that's good. And I guess the other piece of it would be if people just say, well, I'm going to sign up for transportation just as a backup, but then they don't use it, and they just have it as a backup. That would be probably more the issue that we're
I've had
talking
that
about.
this year, last
Yeah.
2 weeks of school, they rode, I didn't have them all year.
Right, but again, I think the issue is the failure to notify that they're not going to be on the bus.
Yeah, because they're probably not going to notify you every day.
Right.
For 100.
Right.
Yeah.
179
But
days.
regardless, like if Amy was our bus driver, which she was for a while, like if she knows, hey, my kids are never gonna use it except for the last 2 weeks, I can let her know and say, Amy, is there room? Because if there's not room, like, hey, you're SOL, but if there's room, we won't use it till the last 2 weeks. Okay, like they know. So I think it comes down to the communication part, and there's gotta be something in the app that can do that, because otherwise.
So at this
There's
point,
a
do you think?
million-dollar opportunity.
Yeah, yeah. And this may be a year that maybe we just, I mean, it's an issue, we know it is. But maybe this is more the conversations we have with people if their kids aren't checking
Yeah.
in, they've not, then we just say, hey, do you really want transportation? And not have it in something that's written down that we're automatically gonna do this if you don't do this. Just have it more as a conversation, because it does need to get
Is that something that we can go
better.
back and track? Like,
Yeah, we
after
can.
this year, we can go back and look at the numbers?
Well, we'll be able to do it, you know,
So-
per board meeting, really.
So you're saying that the possibilities maybe for this year is take the yellow highlighted language
Take it out, yeah. take
And
it
then,
out.
and then evaluate it at the end of the year, or maybe even, depending if it becomes a real issue in the
Yeah.
middle of the year, we
Because-
just.
Yeah, because we know it's somewhat of an issue now. We already know that, right? Because they experience it now, but how do you,
And especially if
How do
you're
you
on a
address it?
crowded bus. Most of us have seating charts. You throw a kid in, then you gotta find a seat for them. And hopefully they get along with where you put them.
yeah,
And then, and if you're going past that house or not, then you gotta
yeah,
figure out how to reroute to pick them up or drop them off
Quickly.
quickly.
right.
And things like cancellations, that just happens at the last second. Sometimes it's at the end of the day, they find out
Right.
they have to have cancellations.
Yeah,
They're
and-
gonna have to run.
I mean, my hope is that, again, that's, you actually get notice of the cancellation, so that you're not driving 10 minutes out of the way, but again, you'll also know whether or not that student got
And
on
we
the
do have
bus.
some parents
You'll-
that will text us on our cell phone that morning, hey, I'm not, but once you get in that bus, you can't look at that phone.
Yeah.
Right, right.
And
And
they're
so I
texting
stop and I'm
sometimes.
honking, I get to Norwell, oh, they weren't
They were
riding anyway.
I have something else I just thought of. I had the situation this year, which, again, I went right by the house. It wasn't a problem for me, but the mother did text me and let me know, hey, so-and-so, we had gotten bad weather during the day, new student, or new driver. She hadn't had her driver's license, but maybe 3 weeks,
Mm.
and she said she's leaving her car at school, she'll be on the bus this afternoon.
Mhm.
So, I mean,
Yeah, that's a good point, too.
that's another, something to think
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
And then the next morning, of course, she was on, she
To her
rode
car.
to school,
To her car.
and then she drove her car home
Mhm,
that afternoon.
mhm.
Yeah, I think
Mhm.
maybe leaving it out
Yeah,
for now.
yeah, it's just, yeah, we'll take it out. I think we just need to kind of watch, because we do want to make sure, part of being efficient routes is that, you know, we don't want to be packed like sardines, you know, but we also don't want to be riding buses with 10 kids on it, right, or 12 kids on it,
Well,
or.
And you don't want to be
So-
going really far out of the way for somebody who's not on the bus in
Right.
the first place.
Is it-
I do recall
Yeah.
in some of the training that Carter, he does a good job in training.
He
and
does,
trains
great.
Carter. But he did mention at one point, he said, well, you know, Johnny may be on vacation, and they're on vacation, but it's not when we normally take our spring break.
Right.
And so there was a possibility of putting in the date.
Yeah, I
that
took- when he
week,
said that,
and
I
it
started
would-
remembering
and
that,
you
yeah.
could take it, it would just, he wouldn't have a schedule. You know, if the parents looking at Stop Finder, there's no schedule for them, so they're not on the route during that time frame.
Yeah, thank you, Jenny. I tried to, yeah, there is a time where you can block off a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there would be, if you had a parent that had a child and that was gonna be doing something after school for 3 weeks, and then they put that in.
Yeah.
But I don't know if a parent would have to say, okay, well, if it is canceled, then I need to provide the transportation that day, because we can't just change it that day. I don't know if that.
Yeah, they would still be rostered though, so I think that's okay, because the big thing with coming in and swiping is that you can't have a kid get on your bus that's not rostered on your bus. And so they would still be rostered, even if they were saying they weren't gonna be riding this period of time for a cancellation. Now in the mornings, if they said they're not riding, then you wouldn't be stopping to pick them up, but, okay. Well, good, I appreciate that. Is there anything else as you guys were looking at the procedures? We'll bring it back if there's things you want us to focus on. Is there anything that seemed, it basically just putting language to what we do. And in the discipline thing, we want to have that in there to look at it. And this is a hard thing, like our drivers, we talk about it in almost every one of our meetings, and but just to have that confidence that if behaviors are either so egregious or so repetitive that it's really making the bus unsafe, that the bus drivers have the authority to remove a student for up to 3 days from driving privileges. Like, that's just really important for, just like a teacher, they have to have, control their classroom, and we need to empower teachers to do that. Now, there's some things that go beyond the classroom that have to involve administration, and same thing with bus drivers, but for just those things that are happening more on a consistent basis, we want our bus drivers to have the confidence and empower them to remove students if they have to. And so we want to make sure we put that in there. So this stuff is all that's in the handbook, which is what I think Mrs. Murphy referred to earlier. So,
any other questions? Are there members of the public that wish to speak directly in regards to the,
I have one more thing. Is there any way that they can put in, so like when a student is suspended,
yeah.
just put, we don't have to know that they're suspended,
Right.
just say that they're not riding the bus?
Yes, yeah, yes.
Because.
They need to know anything, but that they're
Yeah,
not
we
going to
just
be on
need
the
to know
bus
they're not
on
riding.
December 3rd to December 14th
Yes,
or something like that.
yes. And and of course, our secretaries and admin, nobody's had training on this yet because it's still all getting done. But yeah, office staff will be able to put that in there and say a student's off the bus for the next 2 days or whatever it might be. So,
are there any members of the public wishing to speak directly on the Norwell Community Schools Transportation Practices and Procedures portion, as it's the only discussion item that will result in an action item? Come on up. State your name and you'll have 3 minutes.
My name's Connie Jenkins, and the drivers got together and they wrote this thing up. Of course, being the old lady, I got elected to speak, and this formal setting is making me kind of nervous, but here goes. Some of this stuff has kind of been talked about and solved, so because they wrote this up here before the meeting tonight, so some of it's we've smoothed out. But anyway, I thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight, not only as an individual, but as a voice for the dedicated group of drivers who show up each day with the same mission, to get our students to school safely and return them home just the same. Every morning before the sun rises, we inspect our buses, review our routes, and prepare mentally and emotionally for the day ahead. We prepare to handle everything from mechanical breakdowns to behavior issues, emergencies to inclement weather, and we do this because we care deeply about our students and our safety. We are often the first to greet a child in the morning and the last to see them in the afternoon. In that small window of time, we provide more than transportation. We offer a sense of consistency, comfort, and care. We celebrate with the kids when they're excited, and we encourage them when they're having a hard day, and we keep them safe no matter what's happening inside or outside the bus. But it's important to acknowledge that the role we play has grown more challenging. While we take pride in our work, we are also carrying heavier loads, figuratively and literally. Whether it's managing overcrowded routes, responding to behavior issues without adequate support, or navigating difficult road conditions in early morning darkness, we do it because we love our students and we love our community, but it does take a toll. We ask you to consider a few things moving forward. Several of us have been driving routes that are overcrowded or too long due to a shortage of drivers. We love our kids, but bus behavior has become more difficult to manage in recent years. Drivers need to have more consistent backup from administration when disciplinary concerns arise. Our buses are moving classrooms, and they deserve the same level of structure and accountability as those inside the school building. We don't expect every decision to revolve around transportation, but we hope that our voices can be included when policies are made that affect how we run our routes and care for our kids. Often we feel like the forgotten front line or the butt of a joke. We have often been referred to as clunky. We're not asking for a spotlight, but we do ask for acknowledgement, for a seat at the table when decisions are made that affect us directly. And like many districts, we're feeling the effects of driver shortages. Competitive wages, benefits, clear communication, and a show of respect for the hard work we do are essential if we want to attract and retain dedicated, qualified drivers. And I know we're supposedly training, but I'll believe it when I see it when they're driving our buses, I tell you. While we received a $1,000 stipend last year due to the shortage of drivers, several of us are now facing pay cuts under the new compensation package.
Ma'am, and we need to stick to the policies and procedures portion. Do you have any specific things that
For
you?
the route driving?
For
here?
the specific-
Expectations from the drivers, it says right here, expectation discussion.
Okay, but we're getting into pay that has nothing to do with this.
Right, that was just, anyway, well, additionally,
You
drivers.
got 30 seconds.
Well,
Wait a
you
second.
may say.
Everybody else has had a lot longer time to talk. Let us talk.
So, excuse me, but there is a policy that was set by the state that any member of the public can speak for 3 minutes. We asked for our employees to come up and talk about a specific thing. The state,
She is an employee.
she's a member of the public at this point because she's addressing something as a member of the public. Therefore, the law says she has 3 minutes.
Somebody else. Go ahead.
You've got 30
Continue.
seconds.
I'm just reading what's on here. Probably shut me off again, because we're talking about the longevity, the 20-year drivers.
Has nothing to do with the
Cap.
policies and procedures.
Yeah. You want me to continue with this? Okay, I'll go on. As we look ahead to the upcoming school year, we respectfully request consideration of a $2,500 return
Okay,
stipend.
your time's up.
Okay.
Has nothing to do with policies and procedures.
Okay, well, hold on. The policies and procedures with the route changes,
Your-
is this
your-
something,
Your 3 minutes are up. Thank you.
really?
Yes. Are there any members wishing to speak, other members wishing to speak regarding the policies and procedures?
I will.
Did you sign up?
Yes.
Okay, your name, state your name and when you arrived.
My name is Doug Engel, and I would like to talk about accountability of the policies and the procedures. Okay, I received an email, or maybe it was from a Stephen Spallinger, which is the state police officer that certifies all our buses. And in that, there's a spot that says, "The minibuses I have looked at, both yellow and white, are designed to transport more than 16 passengers and would require at least a Class C CDL to operate them. But the huge liability of this is for the driver, of the lawsuits, for the school and the driver. We're using a lot of white buses, and we need to know, are they CDL certified, or are they 15 passenger or under? And that's for the safety of the student, the drivers, the staff, the coaches. So we have a whole bunch of them. We just bought new ones. We need to make sure that they are classified.
We've been made aware of that and we are looking into it. So again, I don't know that that has anything to
I
specifically.
can bring that at our next meeting
Well,
and show
it-
you what we have.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, you asked for policies and
No, it's great.
procedures.
Well,
That's what I'm bringing
this
about.
specific, yeah, this specific thing.
Okay.
This document that is being considered for approval at the next meeting.
Okay. And then secondly, I don't mean to ruffle any feathers, but when Mike said everybody got their number one that they wanted, but maybe four, I think he got it wrong. I think there's four that got what they wanted and the
Okay,
rest didn't.
again, we're only talking about the practices and the procedures document that is being considered.
So everything up here and everything that he talked about was all about,
That wasn't, the only discussion item that's moving to an action item is this specific thing. Therefore, this is the only thing that is up for public discussion.
okay, well, the
With-
public's heard it
Yeah.
because it's been on tape. Thank you.
Yeah, with that, school board, if you would like, I can show you what drivers put down as their selections and then what routes were actually assigned. And I shared the one email with you that I shared with them, so I'm happy to share that information with you.
Any other members of the public wishing to speak in regards to the practices and procedures document? Okay, hearing none, we will move on to action items. Or, I'm sorry, accounts payable.
Yeah, so we do have a discussion here. And Deb, are you coming up by yourself, or are you making Linda come up with you? There you go. All right, so Deb just wants to talk about possibly a position here for payroll clerk and accounts payable in the office. And you have that attachment.
Yep, there was a memo, rather lengthy memo that was included in your packet, and I'm not going to read that whole thing, but we would like to add a dedicated AP payroll secretary. It would help us provide separation of duties as required by the State Board of Accounts. And it would provide a much-needed backup that we need right now, specifically. Really, payroll is the big issue. I mean, we have somebody out on FMLA right now, and payroll tends to be a little important to our employees, so it would provide a backup for both AP and for payroll. Even though we're becoming a lot more efficient, we keep adding things, platforms to help us combat fraud. We use Positive Pay with the bank. We've added Trex, which helps with collections. Frontline helps us with our onboarding and our outboarding. Latchkey program, we have an online payment system now. There's no cash that the ECA treasurers have to deal with cash and checks for payment. It's done online. The elementary supply kits, I mean, I could go on and on, but all of that takes administrative time, you know, on our end. So we would really appreciate an approval to post that position and to add that to our department. Do you have anything to add, Linda? Did I take your thunder?
I was just going to talk about how we're continually trying to improve processes and make things more efficient. Sometimes we make things more efficient for the schools, and it adds a little more work to our plate. When we, as Mike had said, with the TransFinder, when we are looking into new processes and new softwares, or even creating a big spreadsheet to help with processes, it takes time to implement it. And eventually it'll make things more efficient, but we right now don't have the time to implement everything that we would like to.
So we're just asking permission to post that position. If you have any questions, further questions?
So I'd like to see a job description with a pay scale.
We do have a job description, and I'll make that available to you.
Okay.
And the pay scale will follow what's in our support staff handbook.
Okay.
But I can provide that to you.
Is this a full-time or could it be a part-time position?
Since we're combining both payroll and accounts payable, it would be full-time.
Sorry, I just was seeking clarity in regards to you're not asking for a decision today
No,
because it's a discussion item, correct?
Correct.
Yes, okay.
I mean, she would like it today, and I said,
I
we're
would like-
gonna have a
I
discussion
would like
about
it
it.
today because I would like to post it tomorrow and get going on it.
But
'cause
we're not doing
It
that.
will take
Yeah.
Okay.
a month before we can.
And you had this
select a-
position before, correct?
Yes, we have had this position filled before,
Okay.
but unfortunately didn't work out.
So essentially what you're asking is to replace a position that was
Correct.
already,
Yes.
okay.
It didn't work out just personally, or for other, like for issues that were a personal reason, or it didn't work out because it wasn't a needed position.
Personnel
It was
wise.
very much a needed position.
Okay.
But it just didn't work out.
So I guess the question I have is, from a board's
Do we need
perspective,
to
is do we need to approve it if the position was just left
Well-
unfilled, or was that position replaced with something else from a budgetary perspective?
It wasn't replaced, and so I guess I just wanted us to have this, because they've been asking for this for a while, and we're just trying to, honestly, in the same thing we're doing with transportation, trying to be as lean as we can, right now in central office. And so I just think if we're gonna hire these positions, whether we're reposting or not, I just want us to have the discussion, and why is it necessary, and make sure that you're sharing that. So I will say, just because Courtney's not here, she has, family issue that she's dealing with, but the payroll, so one of the things we've done in HR, and really a lot of credit to Courtney, I think I told you guys before when we went to IASBO conference, she's kind of taken over the meeting from the back, just because they're asking her things that we're doing with our onboarding and offboarding and all that stuff in HR. But that takes, and it's really good, and I've heard really positive feedback from our new staff members on that, but that takes a lot of time away from like just running payroll and doing that. So it's not uncommon to have a payroll clerk and then also an AP person, because that's also taking some time. We are looking at some ways that we can automatize accounts payable a little bit more too, so we are looking into that. But the payroll clerk piece, I think that would be a big load off of HR as well.
So I guess I'm curious as to what the rest of the board feels, and this is going to be an overall in regards to positions in the district. I understand the transportation discussion. That affects parents, students, everybody. When it comes to, I don't think we want to get into the individualizing positions that we're replacing when we don't do that in any other.
Right.
Like, you might leave a teaching position open for a semester, but you're not bringing that to us.
Correct.
And
That's
so
true. That's true.
I don't feel like this is a decision.
I don't think it's an issue.
I don't either.
And so I guess my
No,
personal
actually-
thing would be is post it. Because
Post it.
if it's
If
already
it
budgeted, if it was
exists,
budgeted,
fill it.
the position exists, then do it.
It's not a new created,
done.
yeah.
No, I appreciate that. I would just, especially in this environment when we know that we're cutting back and doing stuff, like I just want to have those discussions. But I get it, if we've had it at one point, but we've also been living without it.
Correct,
But it's been.
but at the same time, if you're saying to us, hey, we want to eliminate this position, here's why I think we should keep it, and we need to make a decision whether or not we're officially
No, I appreciate
eliminating,
that.
I
I
think
get it.
that's different. But if you find a need to replace it, then I think.
How long ago was that filled and then
How
not
long have you
filled?
been without?
It's been a semester, since last semester, since
Okay.
January.
Yes.
So-
It was right before Christmas, I think, in December. when
Yeah.
we-
So while I am in agreement, and I hate adding more policy, but what I would not like to have happen is be like, hey, we had an assistant to the assistant superintendent 7 years ago.
Correct.
Let's just post it. So,
Really?
Right.
so like just some, so I think we either need to make policy that there's a time horizon on backfilling something.
Right.
Just to be safe.
Yes.
But it's been less than a year.
Yeah. And
Yes.
maybe, yes, so I'm totally in agreement with you guys, that yes.
Okay, I appreciate it, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to action items, the retirement of Board Policy 3540 in regards to teacher appreciation grants.
Yeah, so you have the old policy in there, and this is something all school districts are going to need to do because of new legislation. Teacher appreciation is no longer a grant. They don't, so the way they do it now, and I'll be quick about this, I know it's been a long meeting, but we get a chunk of money, and then we're supposed to give that to, at least in the past, give it to highly effective and effective teachers, and had some guidelines to doing that. That's no longer the case. So, and we'll come back another time. I want to talk with our NCTA about what that might look like for us. There's a lot of language that hasn't been given to us yet. Don't even know a timeline on how we'd apply for a grant. But now it's basically supposed to be like 20% of your teacher population. And there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes into it. And you guys saw that at our regional meeting. So anyway, but to move into transition of that, we need to retire this policy because it's no longer applicable.
Are there any questions of the board?
I know you said we'll talk about it when it does come up, but it was at that regional meeting, so I want to be very clear that the new way that I think it will roll out is not very
No.
beneficial to teachers, and this is not something, this is what the state gave us. So if people are mad or don't like it, they need to call the representatives, because it's not.
Yeah, it has a tendency, I think, to divide
Yeah.
teaching staff, which is really unfortunate,
Yeah.
so.
And I understand the state's perspective of the percentage of teachers who are,
Getting
and
it,
so it's
right.
like, it's just given. But, and again, so
Yeah.
any additional questions? Any members of the public wishing to speak specifically to this policy? Hearing none, I have a motion.
Make a motion to approve, unfortunately.
I'll second it.
I have a motion, a second, all in favor, right hand. The waiver, IDOE education flex waiver.
Yeah, I'm going to ask Mindy to come forward and talk about this one a little bit, because the recommendation's actually coming from her.
Yeah, so Krista is the one that actually found it, and what it is the waiver number 2, and for our teacher assistants or our paraprofessionals that to be highly qualified, the state says that it's a 2-year college experience or a 2-year college degree, or they pass the parapro assessment. We are just wanting to apply for the waiver, so that way we can also add that they can be highly qualified under the completed LEA requirements of professional development modules and training that like we offer during the school year. So that's basically all it is, so.
Yes, it's just approving us to apply for that.
Any questions?
So, explain to me what it is exactly. You're asking basically so you don't have to have the education?
Correct, because it's our teacher assistants, and so, as you know, many teacher assistants, I mean, they don't have college, like degrees, and so, and the parapro assessment is, actually pretty difficult to pass, and so, we're not the only district that's asked for the waiver. I'm actually surprised that we haven't had this waiver in the past. I was kind of shocked by it, and that it's very typical that one of the requirements for highly qualified is that we just offer training to help them, which is what is ongoing that we do currently.
And so these people are going to get that training, but they don't ever go back into school or not finish?
Yeah, correct. This is our teacher assistant. I mean, I'm not trying to belittle that position, but I mean, that position just does not require a college degree. And so, like, why are we, like, if our position currently doesn't require a college degree, then why, like, are we making them go back to college to do that? So why can't we train them in the techniques and in the strategies and in the interventions that we want them to be, so that they're highly qualified according to what, like, we feel like they need to be, so.
And if they went back to school, they would essentially move into a different position.
Correct,
anyways.
yeah,
They just wouldn't have a TA position.
correct, yeah. So, and like I said, I was surprised that we've not had this in the past, so.
Right. And it's a federal, so it's a
Yes.
federal requirement, so most Indiana schools are going to be asking for this waiver.
Any questions? Any questions? Any questions of the public in regards to the waiver? Hearing none, entertain a motion.
Yep, I'll make a motion to approve it.
Motion by Corey,
I'll second.
second Tracy, all in favor, right hand. Opposed?
Okay, just to wrap it up here, just wanted to take, it's been a year now. We had a whole year where we had withdrawn from special education co-op, and just wanted to give Mindy some time to talk a little bit about kind of where we are a year from now, or a year from then.
So I have like a now 65-page PowerPoint.
I
No,
just
it's
got
really
the
quick.
first one.
You know I don't like to talk in front of here, so it'll be really quick. The first part is just the 24-25 review. So this is a slide on that. Evaluations, we've had, this year we completed 42 initially evaluations. It should be evaluations, not reevaluations. So that's when a student is eligible for special ed with an IEP the first time. So we had 42 of those. Reevaluations are 38. So those are the ones that, if you think back when we had these meetings a while ago, and we had said that we had some students that were in, say, 8th grade, and they had not been tested since they were like in pre-K or first grade. So what both Christy and Aaron are doing is that they are, they're figuring out which ones are the most important. So they wanted to make sure that like our seniors that especially wanted to go to college, that they had a new evaluation done, and they're just starting that list. So every year we're going to try to get more and more done, because as you know, they're very time consuming, and then hopefully we'll eventually be caught up. And then also, last year we had 2 positions that were contracted. We had an SLP. We were fortunate enough that that position actually was in person. A lot of times contracted SLPs are virtual, so that's one thing that we did not want. So we had an in-person SLP, and then we also contracted last year with Adams Memorial Hospital for our physical therapy services. And then this is a big one, Medicaid. Megan Howard, my secretary, is amazing, and she worked with Relay, which was the company that we work with for our Medicaid billing. And we just got word last week that we are going to get reimbursed this year $144,000 for the 24-25 school year, and that is at least double of what we received last year.
And that
So-
money goes right back in to special education services, whether that be equipment or special transportation may be needed, or special services, whatever it might be. It goes right back to our kids and our programming.
Yeah, and like I said, we owe Megan Howard like tons of credit for that, because she was with Relay every step of the way, making sure that we were getting all of the errors fixed and all of that to make sure we had that, so that was that. Next slide is just the staffing for next year. Knock on wood, all of our positions are currently filled, so that's pretty amazing for July for special ed to have that. Continued programming, we are going to have 1 contracted position for next year. We're going to continue our collaboration with Adams Memorial Hospital for our PT services, just because we only have 7 students that currently need that, and so just financially it makes more sense that we would contract with them instead of having like a part-time or full-time position. New positions, though, we are doing a little bit of shifting. So we did hire Katie Gregg, and she's going to be the lead SLP. This is like a new type of position that we're doing, because what I found is that we didn't have a lot of, like, if you go to Austin and Lancaster, like they were doing things a little bit different. So I like to have everyone do things the same. So we're doing a lead SLP, and also she's doing the SLP for the middle school and high school. So in addition to that, she's going to be our lead SLP. And then in addition to that, she's going to be a busy lady. Her and Patty Atkins, which you guys probably all know, is going to be our preschool coordinator. So the first year, I had one of our school psychologists do it, and just because of the timing and everything, I think we kind of missed some things, and so I just thought it'd be a good idea to have Katie, who's going to be an SLP, and then Patty, as you all know, I mean, she's like the heart of preschool, so she is going to help with that. So her schedule is that she has developmental preschool and then a half day, Monday through Thursday. Friday is her open day, so she's going to use that time to do transition meetings for preschool. Then Brandy Baker, if you guys know, in the past, we've had our special ed teachers have had to do all the academic testing for our evaluations. Last year, I we kind of picked a couple teachers to do that. So this year, what we're going to do is Brandy's going to do the academic testing, and then she's going to be like 0.5 special ed teacher at the high school also. That way, we just have one teacher that's going to do all of the academic testing to help the veneers with the evaluations. And then the last one is just that we just hired Holiday as of tonight, and that he will be the new mild special ed teacher at Ossian. So he comes from Franklin University. So. And then, two more things, I promise I'll try to be quick here. So I'm always thinking, okay, how do we need to improve? So two things that, just by looking at last year, special transportation's one, and then we also know the seclusion restraint. So those are the two things I want to talk about a little bit. So with special transportation, one of the things that we're going to do is to have the teacher assistants are going to be bus aides. I think this is a great idea that Mike came up with, because it'll also serve as, these are the people that are actually working with those students every day. So it'll help with that relationship, that when we have some students that maybe have some issues, they're gonna know how to react and be proactive instead of having to be so reactive to everything. Another thing that we're going to do is have parent meetings. We're going to try to schedule those on August 5th. So that way we can have the bus drivers and the parents there, kind of to talk about, okay, the issues that they may have and try to be proactive there. And then the last one is to do the escalation training for the staff. If they were a teacher assistant last year, they had it, but we're gonna make sure that they get it again, so that way they can help with any of those issues that would be on the bus. So that's that one. And then the last one here is the seclusion and restraint. So I had invited life skill teachers and intense intervention teachers to go to a training with me in June. So we had 2 life skill teachers and intense intervention teachers attend along with me in a conference in June. And one of the sessions that we went to was reducing seclusion and restraint. And it was actually done by the administrators at Sanders Schools in the West Central Joint Services. So I took information from that, and so I'm going to use that training for all of our special ed teachers as strategies to help kind of get, like, I know that as a last resort that we're gonna have the restraint and seclusion, but as we all know, we don't like to use it, so we're gonna try to help to the teachers with new strategies so that we can try to lessen some of that amount. Another thing is, we talked about this, I think at a meeting, about the cameras. I think Byron, right, correct? Or Adam, one of you guys, put the cameras have been installed outside of the sensory rooms, so that way we have that taken care of for next year too. And then the last thing is the CPI, which is the program that we use for our restraint, is we have 2 district employees that have been trained in the most updated CPI program. They just went a couple of weeks ago for the week, and they'll be training the crisis teams before the beginning of the school year. So that's something new that we're doing, because in the past, school's already started and then we're doing some training. I want to make sure that everyone is trained before we walk in that first day of school. So they'll all be trained in that too, so. And then the last slide, I promise, is some of the new things that I want to do is that all SPED meeting is a half-day SPED meeting that will be held before school begins. We talked, I think it's going to be August 6th. So in the morning, it's going to be the CPI training, and then the afternoon, I'm going to bring everybody in, and we're going to have our SPED meeting then. So that way, that when school starts, they can use that time to really work on the things they need to, and then I'm not taking away their precious time. Another thing I want to continue, or I want to start again, I kind of stopped doing, is that by monthly updates to keep everyone informed. I want to work on a system for staff to list any concerns and questions that they may have, so that way that I can help them. I know that Maria goes out to the schools, but sometimes there's some questions that she may not know the answer to, and so there's always that lack of time. So I want to make sure that I can help them as soon as possible. And then also to help with that collaboration with Maria, who's the special ed coach, and then the school psychologist when they go out to the meetings. So I know I rambled, but that's what that is. Have any questions?
One thing with special transportation, I just want to say, so August 5th is our Student Information Day where families will have, after we do several checks, they'll have their pickup and drop-off times for transportation. Mindy is organizing meetings with Lori and Craig, our special education drivers, along with the aides that are in there, and having parent meetings with the parents and with the drivers and the aides to talk about the upcoming school year and procedures on the bus. So I think that's going to be really great, and appreciate the time that you're going to do to make that happen.
Yeah, and one of the new things I like about the new program too, because I sat at the, when they were doing the special ed routes, is that it's very eye-opening that we could see how, like we had in the past, I think some bus drivers, what they had said before, they were going here to here to here. Well, we have some students that, because of seizure disorders and different things, they really shouldn't be on a bus very long. And so this program was really good because you could actually see, okay, we can have one person just pick up these 3 or 4 students and then get to their destination in such a short amount of time. That way they're not riding that bus for like 45 minutes. And that's when a lot of times like seizures and different things would happen. So that was one of the huge perks with this program too, I really like, so.
Does your camera have sound? Does the camera?
It does. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's fine.
So it has sound and everything. And then how much you said you're gonna do about training. Are you gonna do that like quarterly? Is that gonna be like once the restraints and things like that?
Yeah, so what happens is that, so the 2 CPI trainers, they're going to train, there's online part of it, and then there's the in-person part, so they'll do that. And then each school will have an actual crisis team. And then what's gonna happen is I want them to meet at least probably bi-monthly, if not more, right? Just to go over and review with one of the trainers, different strategies, different techniques, those type of things, to make sure that we are doing everything. Because what happens is that, let's say, especially the high school, by the time that they're in high school, CPI, with that restraint, it doesn't happen very often. And so I don't want it to be that all of a sudden we have a student that just is out of control and we have this crisis team, they're going to go into action. Well, they haven't practiced anything for 3 months, you know what I mean? And then things are going to happen. So I want to make sure that they're constantly talking about things, problem-solving things. And then after there would be an incident, they always come back together, and I'm going to have that trainer with them too to talk, kind of debrief, what can we work on, what can we do different, what worked well, what didn't work well, those type of
And then
things.
we
So-
talk about documentation at that point.
There's always, yes, and that's the thing. So we have incident reports. So Maria has actually created a PowerPoint that she's going to go over, and it goes into great detail of, okay, we fill out an incident report for these things, this is how you do it. And they've had that training before, but we've just seen that sometimes there's a little bit of holes, and so we just want to make sure that they all understand it. So we're going to do the training for the building administrators and also for the teachers, so they have that, so, yeah.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
The last thing says board reports. I
Yeah,
don't think that's
you
an
have
act.
anything?
Nope. Anything from the board? Anything additional?
I guess if I can have just a second more. I don't think people from outside of this area know what community means, but the people that live here do. And I have experienced community with my family, and we have felt a tremendous amount of love and support. And I want to thank you all. And so many people tell us that you're praying for us, and we know that, we feel it. I've said 1,000 times, our hearts are humbled and shattered at the same time. And that will continue. But we appreciate you, and we love you, and we just ask for continued prayers and grace.
I need a motion to adjourn.
Thank you.